We've seen outcomes that exceed Ivy League outcomes, despite the fact that the students that are admitted to Minerva University come from dramatically more socioeconomically diverse and humble backgrounds than the typical Ivy League student does. So, what is different about the Minerva approach? The Minerva approach recognizes that obviously you need to acquire base knowledge in order to be able to do anything with that. But for us, the acquisition of knowledge is the beginning of the learning process. It's not the end. Because in reality, when you acquire any kind of knowledge in a classroom setting, you will not encounter the same conditions when you next need to use it. So if you learn about a principle in an economics class, for example, you aren't going to encounter the same circumstances in which you learned that principle if you need to use it in the real world. In fact, even if you get 12 different examples of that principle, you're not going to encounter any of those 12. And so you may say, well, obviously, that's the point of learning. You learn these types of examples, now you know something, and when it comes time to apply it somewhere else, you know how to do that. Unfortunately, it's not how the human brain actually works. That problem of learning something in one context and applying it in another is referred to as far transfer. It's the ability to change contexts and apply what you learn effectively. And the reality is that transferring of knowledge occurs in many different dimensions because there are many different aspects of contextual application. There are many different ways in which you can take a certain piece of learned knowledge and then use it. Sometimes you are changing the field in which you are applying it, meaning you're changing a subject matter. Right? There's a concept in statistics. Sometimes you'll apply it in economics. Sometimes you'll apply it in business. Sometimes you'll apply it in medical situations. Sometimes you'll apply it in interpersonal situations. So that's a contextual switch on subject. Sometimes you'll apply certain concepts in different cultures. Cultures can be context switching. Sometimes you'll apply the same kind of idea when you make something of your own, and another time you'll apply that same idea when you evaluate something that somebody else has produced. All of those and many other dimensions are examples of context switching. Now, what makes it complex is that these dimensions interact. Sometimes you'll be applying an idea in a business setting in Korea, and you'll be doing it when you're trying to do something on your own. Another time, you're going to be having a medical situation in India, and you are going to actually have to evaluate recommendations that are given to you by others. Making connections between those things is very difficult for the human brain to do naturally. And what the Minerva system has developed is the ability to provide the infrastructure, the scaffolding, if you will, for learners to both acquire the knowledge, apply it, but far more importantly, assess how well and how broadly, in multiple dimensions, can a learner actually apply what it is that they have learned. Only to those institutions that are committed to wholesale reform, to recenter their education from the cram, pass, forget model to the learn and then apply, and apply again and again in a systematic way. Basically, the shift is one that moves from the short-term recall of information to the long-term application of wisdom. And that's what the Minerva movement is all about. reforming education to be centered on wisdom, on application, and to do that for the sake of all of us, not just of the learner, but of society at large.